I definitely started Rorys Travel Club with no more than $2,000, potentially less than $1,000 in my bank account. And thankfully never took any loans and never went into debt. As a 15-year-old, working in the supermarket, and I was earning £5 and 6p an hour. And I remember thinking, this is really good. So there's some days you're starting at 7 o'clock and you're going 12 o'clock at night. I'd rather be happy and skint than rich and miserable. My goal isn't monetary. My goal is to visit every country in the world. You can fly from Dublin to Paris, Dublin to Venice, Dublin to London at 6 o'clock in the morning and come back at 10 at night. And you can have 8 hours in a city, and the flights might only be €30 return.
My name is Kaz Mooney and I'm the host of Mooney Talks. Here we talk to successful individuals and find out the path they took, the decisions they made, and the financial choices that they made along the way. In today's episode, we're talking to Rory King, who you may have heard from Rory's Travel Club, with over 450,000 followers across multiple platforms, as well as thousands of members who receive over 50 travel deals every single month. He's got quite a story. Hi Rory, thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, great to be here.
Such a pleasure to have you on. Such a success story, and I can't wait to hear all about it and how you got to where you are today. I would love to hear, though, the beginning, how you started from even school.
Yeah, no problem. So, yeah, basically grew up in Downpatrick, County Down. All I cared about, genuinely, growing up was football, Gaelic football and soccer. I played for my county. I played soccer for a club called Glentoran, which is one of the biggest teams in Northern Ireland. So academics, I wasn't too good at. I was kind of middle of the class. Didn't really care too much about it, but I was always curious if the teacher had asked who in the class wanted to read, who wanted to do a message, who wanted to cut the grass. I always wanted to be doing something different. With my kind of connection and love for sport, the simplest and easiest thing as a 17, 18-year-old was to become a PE teacher. So my goal, ambition at that stage in my life was to be a PE teacher. At 18, I volunteered in a primary school in Fiji, and that changed my perspective in life and what I actually wanted to do. I did love the teaching aspect of it, but I loved the travel aspect even more. So spent about 6 or 7 weeks in Fiji that summer before going off to university to study sports science to hopefully become a teacher after that. Did sports science in England for 4 years, loved it. Every summer I went travelling, but I knew deep down that I was never going to be a teacher. I just wanted to get my degree and decide then what path I was going to take. So finished university, went off to Thailand, spent 2 months in Thailand, went to Laos, Vietnam, Cambodia, came back to Ireland, and I applied for numerous jobs which would allow me to travel. So my love was travel. I love Ireland. I'm proud to be Irish. I grew up loving GAA and visiting and travelling around Ireland, but my love and want at that stage of my life was to get abroad. So fast forward, I applied for 3 jobs, very, very random, looking back on it. One was to be a language assistant in a school in Barcelona, which was still kind of that teaching angle, kind of hanging on to it slightly. One was doing stocks in Kuala Lumpur, and one was selling alcohol, working for an Irish company and travelling around the world selling alcohol. And thankfully, it all happened very quickly, but I got offered all 3 jobs in the 1 week, which was amazing considering I didn't get the best degree. And anyway, I decided to do the alcohol one, complete opposite of sports science, to work for an Irish alcohol company, but really bought into it, loved their product, loved the owner and the team and their vision. And that was me. So I then spent 5 years traveling around the world promoting this Irish alcohol brand, and had the most amazing time. Really good job, really well looked after. And I lived in Denmark, Cyprus, New Zealand, Canada, Australia. I went back to Fiji. I lived in New York and absolutely loved it. And whenever I was living in New York in 2019, I set up a Facebook page, obviously talking about all this traveling I was doing, more so to let friends and family know I was still alive, to share tips on travel, to share photos. And I started then just talking about how cheap it was to travel in Europe compared to in America, where I was living at the time. And I was sharing tips. And I was actually in America, there's a company called Jack's Flight Club. And basically, what they do is they monitor all the flights and then they promote them to their audience or their subscribers. And I was basically doing something similar in Ireland, but for free and just for my love of it, and saying to people, look, you can go to Croatia for 4 days for €100, and that's kind of how Rory's Travel Club then came
Yeah.
about. Never was meant to be a business. It was a Facebook page that was set up. I was quite happy in my job. Obviously, the pandemic hit. I was meant to go back to New Zealand. Jacinta Ardern imposed the strictest lockdown in the world.
Yes.
So I couldn't go to New Zealand. And I just spent an awful lot more time on the Facebook page. And I had this vision. And this is kind of where the idea stems from as to how I turned it into a business. So if you book accommodation through any of the third parties, who we all know, they take typically between 15 and 20% commission. So if you're an Irish person booking a hotel in Ireland, that's €200. There could be 30, €40 going to a brand or company based outside of Ireland. So as my Facebook page got bigger and my Instagram, my thoughts were, look, if I didn't charge the hotel for advertising, if I was to bring them customers and make them the same amount of money, but Irish people saved that commission charge, if not more, then we're all winning. So that's where my brain was going back then. And genuinely, I didn't think or know it would become what it has today.
Yeah, it's honestly, the success has blown myself, and I'm sure so many people listening, away. Even in the last year, I have been following along your journey. It has doubled what I was doing before. Where did your love for travel begin? Because not every 17, 18-year-old goes to Fiji.
Yeah, so it's kind of bizarre, and I've said this story before. Growing up, 16, 17-year-old, as a 16, 17-year-old Irish guy, I was watching guys that actually played for my Gaelic club in the north. Were going to like London, San Francisco, even Australia to play GAA for the summer on the J1s, and that was it. I wanted to be going away, not even more so than to see the country. I wanted to be around other Irish people enjoying life and enjoying that lifestyle, which I seen other people I knew do. Fiji was an extremely random one looking back on it. There's a company called Think Pacific. They're absolutely brilliant. I have no affiliation, nothing to do with them. But it must have came up, or I've seen it somewhere online, and it was really expensive back then. I was working in the supermarket. I paid for the trip myself. I think it was like $2,000 or whatever, which was an awful lot of money back then. Probably took me 6-7 months to pay it off.
Yeah.
And I went and absolutely loved it. And I was probably just dipping my toes into the unknown at that stage. And after that, I went back to university in obviously the September, and every year I went traveling. And a really, really cool and maybe interesting story was, one summer I was going to go to Dubai, and the flights from Ireland to Dubai were about €500. And what I had actually done, because time wasn't an issue because I was a student at time, I was time rich. What I did was I actually flew from Dublin. I think I went to 7 countries. I went Dublin. Some of them that I remember on that trip were, I went to Dortmund in Germany. I went to Istanbul in Turkey, Sofia in Bulgaria. I went to possibly Rome and a couple of other places, and it was actually cheaper. And I also went to Dubai, and it was cheaper for me to go to all these cities and Dubai than just go to Dubai on its own.
Wow.
So, and that was 10 years before I set up this business. So I was forever looking at cheap flights or cheap ways to travel for myself.
Yeah.
Something worth pointing out, something that I did. I studied in England for university, and every year at the start of the academic year, I would book maybe 20, 30 flights for the year. Whenever I seen that I could fly home for 10, 15 quid, which is still possible. There is still flights for that there at different times of the year. And I knew that even if I wasn't to take them flights, I'm only losing 20, 25 quid. But if I wanted to go home, the flights were there. So for the sake of 300 or 400 quid for the year, I could go back home 10 times if I really wanted to. So that was a tip and something that I did personally. And I'd maybe recommend people that have got children, or maybe people that are studying abroad.
Yeah. And so you mentioned the supermarket. Was that your first job?
No, it wasn't. My first job was cleaning windows.
Very good.
And I remember going home one day, and the guy wanted me to go on their roof, and my parents says no, and they told me to hand my notice in. They were like, absolutely no chance unless there's a harness and whatever else. And this was, I must have been about 14, 15.
Wow. Yeah.
And it was a summer job. And then I got into the supermarket reluctantly at 16. Genuinely the best thing I ever did, because at that stage I was very shy. I didn't know how to speak to people. I hadn't worked as part of a team. I didn't know many people older than me, and highly, highly recommend it. The skills I picked up working in the supermarket were second to none.
Yeah, I think there's nothing like customer service for learning about how to talk to people, but also to deal with people who are very focused on getting something that they want that isn't necessarily possible. Yeah, I think it's a life skill that most people should try to achieve.
I know I'm extremely grateful, and a lot of my friends actually, like I left the supermarket 6-7 years ago, and I still love going in, even if I don't need stuff. I like to go in and see old faces and get the crack. A lot of the people are still there, and people that really, as a 16-year-old, quiet 16-year-old, people that really took me under their wing and taught me a lot about life. So extremely grateful.
You know, how did you find preparing your savings, and how did it affect your day-to-day life, especially around, say, college years? And
So good question. And I've actually a really good tip that I used, and it's kind of like an all-in mentality. So I would always have tried to book my holiday on payday. So I'd have the trip paid off well in advance. So I'd maybe the flight and the hotel booked well in advance. So I knew that on the day that I'm going, I'll have, I think I was getting maybe £1,600 a month back then, which was a lot of money. And I knew that, so it meant that if I flew on payday and had my week away or 10 days away, if I had to live on Cocoa Pops for the next 2 weeks, so be it. I was happy to do it. So, and I actually recommend for people, especially going further afield, that maybe are thinking of going on a gap year or to America or to Australia, to fly on payday. So say, for example, you're saving for 12 months and you've saved $2,000 or whatever it may be. If you fly on payday, you're adding a good chunk to that. Whereas if you fly obviously halfway through the month, you've potentially got some of that money spent. So if you're flying on the day or maybe the day after you get paid, you should have most of that budget to take you away.
Absolutely, that's a great idea. And you never went into debt to start traveling. It was all saved for and paid for, and you using your amazing knowledge to get the best deals.
Yeah, so I always worked. Obviously, I was in the supermarket for, I'd say, 5 years. I worked in the supermarket in England as well. So they obviously they transferred me in term time, and then in the summertime, if I wanted to work in the supermarket in Ireland, I could. And that was kind of flexible because because it was up to myself whether I wanted to work or not, or whether I was staying in England in the first place. So no, and even with my business, like I definitely started Rory's Travel Club with no more than $2,000, potentially less than $1,000 in my bank account, and thankfully never took any loans and never went into debt.
Because a lot of people come to me saying that they'd love to travel, or that maybe their children would love to travel, and they're worried about how to save for it, or is it even possible on a budget?
Yeah, so travel, it doesn't always have to be expensive. And I know And I know what is expensive to one person might be expensive to the next, and I do take that into consideration. But I'll give you a great example. So Amy and Ronan that work with us, 2 weeks ago I sent them to Bordeaux, and for flights and 2 nights hotel in Bordeaux, it was €100 per person, so €200 for the two of them. And I get, for some people that might be a lot of money, and they've other things that they need to concentrate on. But for the average person in Ireland, €200 if they're to go away once a year, it definitely is affordable. So people think holidays, and obviously there's so many tips, and we'll probably touch on them later in this podcast, but people think holidays, like you're going to have to spend thousands of euros to go away, but you don't. And there's, as I said, there's so many tips. Number one being be flexible with your dates. Of course, if you're going to go July fortnight, if you're going to go in the midterm or the middle of July, it is going to be, the prices are going to be sky high, whereas if you're to go 2 weeks before, at the end of June or the middle of June, it could be half the price. So being flexible with your dates, and being realistic as well, and being flexible with your destination. So of course, if you want to go to Lanzarote, you're going to pay big prices, whereas if you say, you know what, I'm going to go to Corfu, or I'm going to go to Malaga or Costa del Sol, it may well be considerably cheaper.
Yeah. And so when you started working and you were in America working for this drinks brand and COVID hit, how did you go from that space to suddenly starting Rory's Travel Club?
Yeah, so Rory's Travel Club, it was actually called Rory's Staycations at the start. And I actually set this up on a Sunday afternoon. I'll never forget it. I was in a shared room. I think there was 6 of us in the room in Bed-Stuy in Brooklyn, New York. And this was an idea. I wanted to set up a Facebook. I never really did social media before this. And I set up a Facebook page. I was on my top bunk in this shared room in New York. And I was like, oh, yes, I'm going to go and I'm going to set up this Facebook page and just talk about travel. And I set it up, and I think there was a reason for it. I think Aer Lingus actually had a sale, and it was like €250 return flights to New York. And I was like, wow, I'm going to set this Facebook up. I'm going to tell everyone about this, all my friends and family, and if people want to book it, they can. So I got really excited about it. And then I'll never forget it. There was a little curry shop right beside the accommodation I was staying in, and I went down for food, and my phone was just ping, 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 and so many people had shared that post. So I think straight away we got like 3,000-4,000 followers, and like I didn't know social media, I didn't know what that meant, but I was like, what the hell? Like, I've got a full-time job, I can't be doing this. Like, and I think from day one I was just completely authentic about it, saying, look, this is just a Facebook page, because at that stage I had hundreds of messages of people saying, can you organise my holiday, can you get Aer Lingus to change their flights, can you ring EasyJet for me? And I'm like, absolutely not. Like, and at the start I actually I went above and beyond for free, because I really wanted to help people, and there was certain people in certain circumstances that really needed help, and I actually did. I'd say there was at least 100 people in the space of 3 or 4 months that I really went out of my way and spent 20 minutes, half an hour on each query to help people, and that was kind of the start of it. At that stage, no way was it meant to be a business. It was just a Facebook page talking about cheap travel and my experiences on my trips. Fast forward, COVID hit that Christmas. I was meant to fly back to New York in the February, and I couldn't. Obviously, as I said earlier, there was a really strict lockdown, so I had a lot more time to put into the Facebook page, and I'll never forget it. Some people listening might even remember this. I put a status out on Facebook saying, I'm thinking of quitting my job. I'm thinking of charging €10 a year. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in all my time into getting people the best deals. So I'm going to go and negotiate better deals with the hotels. I'm going to spend more time. And obviously, people are going to benefit a lot more. So I put this status out and I says, what do you think? Like, am I losing my mind, or do you think this is a good idea? And I think we might only have been 50 comments, but people were so positive. They're like, they're like, yeah, we love what you do. We love this Facebook. I'll happily pay €10. So straight away, rang my boss. I was like, hand my notice in, and I was like, at that stage, I was like, could I afford to pay myself out of these €10? Possibly, possibly not, but I wanted to do it. So, and there was no stopping me. So, setting up a travel business in the middle of a pandemic when no one can travel, wasn't planned. But thankfully, everything is came out on the positive side.
And it must have been such a big financial step to have to take, to go from a regular wage where you know what is coming in every month to having to rely on people first off signing up to a business that hasn't been shown to work yet.
Yeah, exactly.
And it probably shows how much people really believed in your authenticness online, and how much you really gave to that page before you even started. It probably helped so much. But how was it financially at that time?
Yeah, so I suppose because of the lockdown, you couldn't really go. Like, I didn't need money, and like, I genuinely, like, if push came to shove, I think I could go 6 months without spending any more than, I could go 6 months on 600 if you're €5 meals. I could go. I don't need money for anything. I'm fairly set. Like life is fairly simple for me. So at that stage, I just wanted to do it. I was like, I'd never thought, you know what, I want to have this big platform. I want to do this or do that. I was like, I want to help people save money. I want to talk about travel, and but most of all, and the most important thing was, I wanted to give people value for their money. So people paying €10 to us for a service, I was like, I want to deliver them as much value as possible, and that's still our motto. Is we want to deliver as much value for that money as possible. And it's actually it's insane looking back on it. And whenever I stand, I still have an awful lot of days where it's the moment I wake up to the moment I go to bed, it could be 14, 15 hours straight. And it's not labor intensive. And I know a lot of people have really labor intense, hard jobs, but for the mind, like, it is. So there's some days you're starting at 7 o'clock and you're going 12 o'clock at night. And in terms of, I personally believe I've left no stone unturned. And for our customers, for our members, I still get as excited for every time we get an offer that's good. I'm like buzzing them, itching to put it out there, because I'm like, look, this could really benefit someone. And the feedback, obviously, over the last 2 or 3 years has been brilliant from our customers. But I still see the bigger picture. I'm like, we have still so much more value to add. But to go back to your question, we didn't turn a profit until the third year.
Wow.
So this year was our first year profitable. It wasn't a massive profit, but obviously, and it's easy for a lot of people from the outside to look in and say, geez, he's got all these members and all these followers. But in terms of, when we now have staff, we've marketing, we've VAT, we've tax, we've everything everything that every business does have. And there was a lot of times where I just had to keep going, and there was no way I was going to quit. I thought, you know what, this will be good and this will be brilliant someday. And I still think that. I still think we're still very much work in progress. Even today, like, we've 2 or 3 more 5-star hotels that are going to come on board hopefully in the next week. And then every time one of them comes on board, I'm like, yes, like, I'm going to save Irish people money. They're going to go, they're going to enjoy it, and we're all going to win together. And
you work very closely with the hotels and businesses themselves, airlines, etc.
Yeah.
How hard was it in the beginning to convince?
It's a complete nightmare.
Yeah.
And still, like, there's still hotels obviously don't know who I am or what we're doing, and that's fine. And it is what it is. But at the start, like, hotels were like, absolutely no chance. Who are you? Like, they all really like the concept of passing that saving on to the consumer and driving direct business. But I didn't have the audience to do that, so I like, even at the start, like, we started off working with glamping places and B&Bs, and excuse me, we had a couple of hotels, maybe they were giving us a couple of dates. So So in terms of now, where we are now, we're way, way ahead of where we were at the start. But at the start, like there was, like we're really starting on 2 3-star hotels just
Yeah.
to get anything, to get a bit of traction, and it just had to be done. But our brand and our name was getting stronger, week on week, and it still is, because the more members we have, the better discounts we can negotiate, which will get us more members, which so it's only going to go up and it's only going to get better. But back then it was like pulling teeth. It was really, really difficult even to get as much as 10% off a business.
You had a post that went viral earlier this year and it really struck a chord with me. And it's where you were talking about how there was times you had to stay in the car.
Yeah, I didn't know what you're going to say there. Yeah, that. Yeah, it's true.
And like, it just really struck a chord, because there's a side to building a business, especially like this, that is in the service industry and is so reliant on people believing in you and the message you're trying to share. How does it feel to have gone from that place?
Yeah, it feels a million miles away, but it wasn't too long ago. But my belief was, this is going to be big, this is going to help people, this is going to be amazing, and that's what kept me going. No matter what, this was never going to fail. And that's just, and I'm not saying I'm no different to anyone else, but the mentality was, this is going to be big, this is going to be brilliant. And yet it did happen. I'd say at least 10 nights while going to meetings. So it's funny now, because we work with so many hotels, and I'm invited to stay in every hotel that we work with for free. And there's often hotels that I mightn't get to ever. And back then I couldn't afford to. So whenever I set up, I was traveling around speaking to hotels, trying to negotiate discounts for our members. And I might have been in 5 hotels in the one day, but I wouldn't have asked any of them for a free room, because it's just not my nature, and I wouldn't want anything for free. But so what I was doing was, I was going to meetings so I could be in Clare and visit 4 hotels. And that night I'd be driving, and if I'm tired, on the motorway, and there's some days maybe I had to be in Donegal the next day, or I had to. So I was just really bouncing around the country, and there was quite a few times I slept in the car, and there was a couple of times I actually used the truckers' showers in the Apple Green. And
Yeah.
it's mad. It kind of went full circle. And I think the post you're talking about was whenever I pulled in this year to listen to myself
Yeah.
on one of the national broadcasting radio stations, my interview, and it just felt so surreal, where we've went from myself sleeping in the car out the back of it just to try and get the business off its ground, to obviously winning national awards and then speaking live on air.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and I suppose if you have a belief and you think you can do something in life, whether it's in business or whether it's your personal life, obviously if you stick to it, you'll hopefully get there.
So walk us through your travel club. So how much does it cost, and what are the savings that we can make?
Yeah, so it's now €12 a year. It was €10 for the first 2.5 years, and it was €10 whenever I started on my own. We now have 8 employees.
For the whole year?
€10 for a year, yeah. But
So it's €1 a month.
it is, yeah.
It's crazy.
So that's what happens. So we basically started off €10. We now have 8 employees, and in the north, when you go by a certain threshold, you have to pay 20% VAT. So what we've done is actually we've just put the 20% VAT on top of the €10. So it's €12 a year now, which is of course €1 a month. We send on average 50 deals every month, if not more. And we now have a second subscription, which is for group memberships, which again, it's kind of just evolved out of nowhere. It was something that I dipped my toes in. At the start, I wasn't too sure, and now we've actually got 50 people in Slovenia right now. There's 140 of us going on a cruise next week. We had 185 last week on a cruise. We've a group in Bali actually this week. We've like 35 people in Bali this week, and it's so there's 2 memberships. One is for groups where you can meet other Irish people and travel together, and one is for just regular offers that you can book for yourself, for your own friends, your own family.
And I have seen recently there has been a few people talking online who have even said that they have found that they have made friends on these trips. It's not just for couples and families.
No, so that's it. Like we're bringing a group of Irish people together. You can dip in, dip out as much as you want. You're traveling, you're making memories, you're having dinner with these people, drinks, the crack, and yeah, it's an unbelievable community and something that I'm really really proud of because it's something that never meant to happen. One day, this was again it's bizarre how these things happen. I had I had a message, and some lady had said to me, "Right, why don't you try and organize a group for your members or your followers?" And I put it out there. I says, "No problem." I says, "Right, I'll book on and we'll go." So the first group trip we did was to Edinburgh. I'll never forget it. And there was four of us went, four people, and I paid to go away. I went, and there was four of us. And I was like, geez. And one of the lads, actually, if he's listening, he won't care me saying this. He arrived in a GAA top that was back to front. And I was like, what am I getting myself into? So I was like, but we had a great time. There was a lady from Swords on that trip, and she had her first Greg sausage roll, her first time in Weatherspoons, and we went to Edinburgh Castle. We had a beautiful time, even though there was only four of us. But I was like reluctant to do it again, and then someone says, why not try one in Ireland? So I put out a group trip in Donegal. We all went up to Gweedore in Donegal, and there was about 65 people turned up, and I was like, this is amazing. And we had a sing-song. We had a lock-in the hotel to maybe 4 o'clock in the morning. One of the ladies was a musician. The crack was absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And something that had never meant to happen. It's now turning into potentially a business on its own, where we kind of facilitate group trips for Irish people to make friends and travel together.
Yeah, because I think it can be so difficult, especially if you are widowed or divorced, or even you're just on your own, and maybe your friends and family are all busy and they're living their own lives. It can be so hard, and if you have your own ambitions to go and visit the world, it can be hard to, make that happen on your own. And especially, I think women are sometimes afraid to go alone and explore the world. So it must be amazing to see some people get that independence.
Yeah, I've seen this 1,000 times over, and I've met some of the most amazing, incredible people, and it's given them a chance to go and enjoy it. Like, a lot of these people haven't been away in 10 years or 15 years, and it's given them a new lease of energy, a new lease of life, and a meaning in life. And it's extremely rewarding. And some of the stories and some of the people that I've met, and it's great. What I see often happening is people will go on a group trip with us, and when it comes down to it, they're making friends for life. And people go on a group trip with us, they meet people similar interests, similar ages, similar whatever. And what happens is they tend to then either meet up outside of Rory's Travel Club, or else what I'm often seeing is people then that have met on one trip will then come together on the next trip, which is it's so rewarding, and it's so brilliant to see. And the community aspect of it, every trip we have, there's a WhatsApp group, we do a Zoom call, and we kind of will have a loose itinerary. And what I find probably the most amazing thing about what we do, so the group trip subscription is €12. The reason we've had to do that is because, of course, there's so much time and energy and effort goes into it. But the most amazing thing is, we'll actually negotiate a discount on the group trip, so you'll be saving more than €12. So the fact that we're doing all the bringing together and the organising, that is essentially going to be free, which is, in the grand scheme of things, it's absolutely amazing.
It's honestly kind of mind-boggling how you're able to do all that for that price, to be honest. Like, it really is kind of hard to put together. And you're obviously doing so much one-to-one with the venue, but also with the clients. There's so many different travel clubs and things online. Not so much clubs, but travel agencies that have popped up online. What do you think makes your service different?
Yeah, so we don't take a commission on anything we do. There's no fees, no commission. So any offer we promote, we've done our utmost best to get our members the best possible price. So say for example, we actually have an offer going out today. It's for next February. It's flights, bags, 4 nights in 3 nights in San Francisco, 4 nights in Vegas, and your transfers in between. And it's under €1,000 per person, which is incredible value.
Crazy.
And so what we've done is we're working with a travel agent on it. We make no money on it, and we're basically working with them to get the best possible price. And often because we drive volume, which could be 20, 30 bookings on the same plane, the same date, the same hotel, we're able to get group rates. So what may be €1,000 as a one-off booking, we could have it maybe at 900 or 920, meaning our members are going to be saving multiple times the €12 annual subscription. So most other, if not all, travel companies that you're probably used to using and know about, they're all adding a commission, whereas we're actually trying to save money on the base price.
And not only that, you're an Irish business with Irish employees,
Yeah.
and you are helping people to visit and see the world, but for whatever their budget is, which isn't always the case, because a lot of the time you're looking at package deals and that's just it. That's 3 or 4 package deals for the summer and you have to pick from them.
Yeah, exactly. And what we're doing is we're putting ideas, and so we're basically inspiring people to do stuff that maybe they wouldn't do otherwise. And
50 plus offers a month. Like, that's a lot of inspiration.
Yeah, well, we had a cruise. We had a cruise there 2 weeks ago. We went to the Norwegian fjords, 185 people, and quite a few of them said, "Look, I'd never been on a cruise before. 2, I don't really care about the cruise. I care more about meeting people. And 3, if it wasn't for Rory's Travel Club, they probably would never have done a cruise in their lifetime. And 4, most of them said they would. Well, most, if not all, would probably do a cruise again because it was so much fun, and cruises are amazing.
What was your favourite place to visit ever?
Fiji. I lived in Fiji for a year. So obviously, I was saying earlier that I volunteered there when I was 18. I've been back 5 times since.
Wow.
I absolutely love it. Fiji's got both sides to it. It's got the Paradise Islands, the kind of Hawaii style, but it's also got part of it is third world, and that's the part that I lived in and I enjoyed and I loved. I lived with a local family. I volunteered in the primary school, and there was one stage I didn't see another white person for like 6 months.
Wow.
And it was the most surreal experience. Fijians are the kindest, funniest, most amazing people. And if you see on our socials, I have so many photos and videos over the years. And I owe so much to the family I live with in Fiji. And it really opened my eyes up to, and I often allude to this here on social media as well. So living in Fiji on an island with very little internet, one shop on the whole island, very little money, if not none at all. These people were happier than people when I lived in Brooklyn or Manhattan in New York, and some of these people were paying $5,000 a month on rent. So it just goes to show that obviously money, while it's good and like to work towards something and to make money, it's not everything, and it's not a massive motivator for me. Even as I say, when I started out, I didn't know if I could pay myself. I left a good job to do this, and I think I know I'd rather be happy, and I'd rather be happy and skint than rich and miserable.
Is there anything you would love to tell yourself back when you had hopes and dreams of even the start of this journey of starting Rory's Travel Club? What would you tell yourself? Because I think a lot of the time you have a vague idea of what you'd like to do, but sometimes the reality is so much bigger than you ever imagined, and so much different as well. Is there any advice you'd give yourself?
Yeah, I wouldn't change the journey I've had. I've had to figure it out as I've went, and I've just been I've just been reluctant. I've just kept going and kept going and kept going. Would I change anything? No. At the end of the day, I don't have any business acumen. I didn't study business. But what I have done is I've constantly listened to the members, to the people that are paying, and I've constantly wanted to make the service better. In terms of for me, I think I'm very lucky to set this up, and I think the vision is massive as to where we want to be now. Back then, I didn't even have a vision. I just wanted to help people. If I like, and I'm still the same, but back then, every single person that booked something and saved 20 quid or 30 quid, I would be writing about it on Facebook. I'd be over the moon. It would make my day. Whereas now we're lucky this is happening. This could happen 1,000 times a week. People are saving money because of us.
Yeah.
But in terms of looking back and starting it, I suppose I've just had to figure it out. And
So you have to stay quite flexible. Like if somebody who is listening right now would like to start something like this, not necessarily the same plan, but they want to start a club and help people to achieve their own goals. Or even that they want to get a career, because there's many different careers where they travel the world. Is there any advice you would give to that person?
yeah, so this might actually sound quite negative, but in my opinion, unless you're extremely passionate about something, don't leave a good job to set up something, because it's not going to be 8, 9, 10. It's not going to be 8, 9 hours a day. It could be 70, 80, 90 hours a week, especially starting out. And I'm sure many startup founders will have done the exact same as I am. And that's the difference between sink or swim. So I know a lot of people will say, just do it. But in my opinion, and I know on your page you talk a lot about money, I personally believe it's different in the north than the south, because the wages are slightly higher down here, especially in Dublin. But I personally believe you don't need any more than 40 grand in the north anyway. If you have 40 grand a year, it's a very, very good salary, and you don't need any more money than that to be happy. So to sacrifice that, to set up a business that you could be, one, put yourself in debt, two, put yourself into depression, and three, I think in business, like, I've had to figure it out. There's so many things that I'm learning, but in terms of all the hidden costs, that people will find out, unless you're appealing to a massive, massive, massive audience, which we're thankfully are, or unless you're first to market doing something completely unique and you're extremely passionate about it, I would say stay in your lane.
Yeah. I think I myself have found as well, like, it is such a different experience. And there's times where you think, oh, I do just miss the 9 to 5 regular wage. But yeah, it definitely takes a certain personality. How much of a part do you feel social media has in businesses, and why do you think more businesses don't do it?
Yeah, it's social media is why I have a business in the first place. It started off obviously as a Facebook page. We now obviously have done Instagram, TikTok. We're going to go on YouTube shortly. But social media, it's massive. Everyone is using it. Everyone's talking about it. And believe it or not, for businesses that maybe aren't using it, it isn't that difficult to go viral. And like, I'm at the stage now where I could post something and be like, oh, only 70,000 people seen that. But I'm going to Croke Park this Sunday, and if Croke Park's full, that's only 70, 80,000, which is a massive amount of people to see one piece of content. So I think unless businesses are going to be using social media going forward, they're going to struggle to have a business. Because you need to be, consumers have that much choice, and you need to be constantly showcasing your brand and connecting with your customers. So I think every business should be on social media.
Do you find that when you're speaking to hotels and maybe not so much airlines, but it's definitely hotels and businesses that you're working with, and you're explaining how you're going to put it across to your over 450,000 followers.
Yeah.
Do you find that sometimes they dismiss that, or
Yeah.
is it, like, how do you think that comes across, particularly to businesses that aren't on social media themselves? Do they really take that in? How, as you said, how many people that is if they were stood in front of them?
Yeah, well, I like to do things that are a no-brainer. So we want to add as much value to everyone we work with, whether it's a hotel, whether it's a travel agent, whether it's the consumer. So in terms of every hotel in Ireland should be working with us. The reason being is we don't charge them. It's free advertising. If they were to pay every time I posted about them, if they were to pay for that advertising with the amount of clicks and the amount of viewers we have, it could be $3 or $4 by the time they get one ad in. So we don't charge for that. There's no fees, no commission. So if our guys book, they book direct. There's no commission. So our customers or our followers become their customers. They own the data. They own the customer. It's their policies. We can send our content creators to hotels completely for free and create amazing content, which will showcase them in a way that some of them couldn't afford to, some of them wouldn't be paying content creators to do. So we can do that for free, and then we can drive, like as I said, we put an offer out yesterday and we've already drove 50 grand of business to one particular hotel.
That's crazy.
And the offer was fairly good for the consumer. Well, it was really good for the consumer. So the consumers were saving 20%, which on a family booking or a couple booking, it was €100, which is 8 times our subscription. And for the hotel, if they're getting €400 for a booking for 2 nights in the summer for a family or for a couple for a 5-star hotel, they were delighted as well. So we're basically the middleman that doesn't charge a fee or a commission. We make our money on the subscription. But what we do ensure is any offer we put out, the saving is going to be greater than €12. So
one trip, you've made your money back,
and more. So there's some things we could be doing with cruise in particular. You could be saving £300, £400, £500.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's good.
Is there anywhere in the world you would love to visit?
Yeah, well, my goal, and this is something that I've said on a couple of podcasts, so my goal isn't monetary. My goal is to visit every country in the world.
Wow.
So a lot of people in business, and a lot of people would say, I want to make this amount of money, I want to own a house, I want whatever. I'm happy enough. I rent an apartment in Belfast. I don't need to own a house. For me, if I can visit every country in the world, I think I'm at about 75, 80 countries at the minute out of 195. So my goal in life is to visit every country in the world. It's not to do anything else.
That's amazing. So say the listener is thinking to themselves, they have a single person, €100 they'd like to visit somewhere in Europe for maybe 1 or 2 nights.
Yeah.
Where would be the best value? Just like, what are some of the savings you've
Yeah, there's so many different ways you can look at it, and some of the stuff we do, I'd say 70-80% of stuff we do is where we negotiate a discount. 20% of what we do is we actually just showcase really affordable travel. And something that we've actually put in front of quite a few people that they would never have thought of is day trips. So you can actually fly from Dublin to Paris, Dublin to Venice, Dublin to London at 6 o'clock in the morning and come back at 10 at night. And you can have 8 hours in a city, and the flights might only be €30 return.
Jeez.
So we've had hundreds of people do this. We had an offer last year with Stena Line to go on a day trip from either Dublin or Rosslare across on the boat and back in the one day, and it was only €5.
Wow.
And even just taking the kids for a day out.
Yeah.
And people were able to book that on a Saturday or Sunday as well. So in terms of stuff like that they'll come up at least 2 or 3 times a year with ourselves. But for €100, like we will have hotel offers for even less than that. We did have something there recently which was 3 nights in a hotel in Mayo for €88.
Wow.
Which
And that's
bed
in
and breakfast, in Ireland.
And I hear from so many people that like staycationing in Ireland is so expensive.
Yeah.
And so people can't see how anyone is doing it. And you're getting deals like that.
It can be expensive, but as I say, it comes back to being flexible with your dates and and being realistic with prices. But that being said, what we do, and obviously we're lucky we've got a big platform to be able to do it. So I'll be speaking to hotels on behalf of our members every single day of the week. And I'll speak to hotels and say, when are you quiet? What's your pain point? When do you need extra bookings? And some of the examples, they speak for themselves. Where recently we had a hotel in Killarney, and they basically had a lot of rooms free on one of the weekends. And what we did was we got buy one night, get the second night free. So it was €200 per night for the Friday and 200 for the Saturday. And we got it for our guys for 200 for the 2 nights.
Oh my goodness.
So, but these guys, so what we're doing is we're speaking to hotels. We're finding out when they've got lots of availability or they need help. And we're saying, give us a good offer and we'll sell the rooms.
So to finish off on the podcast, I like to ask some kind of unusual financial question.
Yeah.
And
good.
I would love to ask you what your earliest experience of money was.
Oh dear. It was earliest experience that I can remember is as a 15-year-old working in the supermarket, and I was earning £5 and 6p an hour. And I remember thinking, this is really good. And that must have been minimum wage back then. I remember seeing it written, and that's what I was getting. And that's my first. Obviously, I'm sure that my parents had given me money for different things, but that's my first. That it was my money, and if you're asking me what I remember, and my first memory of money when it was mine was my first pay packet.
Thank you so much for joining me, Rory. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on.
Thanks very much.
I've followed you for so long, so it's been amazing to hear your story. And I will chat to you again very soon.
Yes, thanks again.
Some amazing budget-friendly travel tips from Rory there. And I can't wait to share with you my next episode where I'm talking to somebody who's had several businesses and also is well known for her food creations.